Hi guys, it's Anders. Today we are going to answer the age-old question of fabfilter Saturn or Trash2. Nice and simple, right? So they're both essentially distortion units, okay? Both designed to be multiband, both designed for you to mess up sound. They're more used recently in splitting up bass, so you can get really crazy mid-range frequencies for more of the main room sound rather than subby sound. But let's have a little look at the differences between the two. I'm sure you can see straight away that fabfilter Saturn, much simpler interface, but it does get a bit more in-depth. Izotope, if you're used to the Izotope plugins, has got a similar layout to what you would have seen in the past versions of Ozone and in Alloy, where it's got the different modules at the bottom and the GUI changes depending on what we're doing. We're going to have a look at Saturn first. I've just got them both applied to the bass in this channel, so we just listen to what that is. Cool, it's just a really gnarly, gritty respace for a D&B track. Cool, so if we grab Saturn and we'll have a little look at how it works compared to how Trash works and the differences between the two. So with Saturn, by default, it's one single distortion unit that's going to grab all of the spectrum. And on the GUI here where you're looking, you've got the different distortion options here. You can click and get a list of them, or you can just scroll through them as you wish. Drive pushes it to the max or minimum, so you can have it off completely. It's just a percent wheel. This little guy here is then left and right, so you can affect the left and right channels independently with how much you want them to be distorted. Then got tone is effectively a 4-band parametric EQ. Level, fairly self-explanatory, also got left and right on it. The dynamics processing is literally, if you want to pull it this way, it's going to be more dynamics. It's going to work like a transient designer. Pull it to the right, it's going to crush it, it's compress it and auto gain it back up to a standard level. Frequency and feedback we get into a little bit. It allows for some fun, and the mix band is a wet dry of how this is applied overall. So if we play some audio and then we go up here and we've got the plus sign, we're going to split it into two frequencies. And we can move that completely freely. So let's just grab the subspace here and we're going to just leave that alone and then mess around up there. So we can hear what that's doing there. And the really nice thing about the fabfilter plugins, if you hover over anything, it will generally give you instructions on what it does here. It pops up in the help and it will explain that. Really helpful if you're going to grab the demo and have a little look through it. What else is good about this? We've grabbed that. Let's say I really like the mid sound of it. We can now split the channel again, and it's going to leave the settings here and it copies them onto this next one, which I can start then messing around with the highs as well. We've utterly destroyed that sound. If we just A-B it, we'll hear a difference real quick. That's definitely a completely new sound. Now if we click this little guy down here below where we've got the feedback frequency thing, it's going to bring up the modulation section, and this gives us some modulation sources that we can then control other parameters with. So if we go add source, let's grab LFO. And we can then attach this LFO to different things. So let's attach it to the feedback. And that is then going to give us a feedback amount, going to be pushing on the LFO, which we can adjust fairly standardly as you would with any LFO that you've used before in any synth or any plugin that has an LFO in it. If we need to know what an LFO is, give me a shout in the comments. We can make a video on it, but I imagine there are hundreds if you just search on YouTube. That was some horribleness there that we got from the feedback. So if we dial that frequency back a bit, we can hear what that does a bit better. Right, let's scrap that entirely, and we will bring it into the mid channel instead, because that's just horrible. So we've now got the LFO adjusting the feedback at a different frequency, giving another rhythmic sound going to it, only affecting that mid channel where we've split the bands up. It's definitely something you can play around with and affect more so and get it working with your track and however it sounds. Just be creative with it. That's the entire purpose of it. There's some other modulation areas, but I don't think we really need to dip into them, because that is effectively what Saturn does. That's broken down Saturn for us. We can see how it splits up the frequencies. You can do a total amount here. Just keep splitting the frequency up and up and up into the full 6 bands here, which is a hell of a lot, and you can then do everything that I've just shown you with each one of those bands, which gives you a great depth of sound manipulation. And yeah, it's a really deep, really good sounding plugin. Now let's have a look at Trash. Okay, so Izotope Trash is an all-round different beast. It has a lot more depth into it and things that you can access and things you can do, and allows for a different type of manipulation. Its purpose is the same, but the way it achieves it is different. We'll go left to right across the bottom. Essentially, filter 1, it is a 5-band EQ. It's the same 5-band EQ that you see in Alloy. The only difference is it's not fully adjustable like it is in Alloy, but it's got shelves and bells here, and you can apply whatever kind of filter you like to the sound then to create it. Now if you wanted to do that with Saturn, you would ideally be putting an EQ before Saturn. In this case, Izotope have it, it's there, it's built in. Trash is where we start to have the fun stuff. So Trash is going to split our frequency up. Same as Saturn, it starts as one solid frequency. We can then turn the others on, and it's going to allow us to have up to 3 splits here on what we're doing. Now there are so many different things inside here, because we can grab each different stage or part of stage 1 here, like distort, and then we've got different types of drivers and like faulty. There are just so many in here, it's not worth me going through all of them with you. You'd be best off to grab the demo and have a play yourself. What we will do instead is just grab some random ones and we can just see how this works. Now you can also turn on stage 2, and that allows you to have a second stage of distortion, and that's per band here. Okay, now the way this works against how Saturn works, having the drive knob, you have this here. You may have seen this type of distortion before. It's similar to what you'd see in a compression, but instead of compressing, it distorts the signal. You can also have it so it's bipolar, meaning the signal will transfer across this entire spectrum rather than just this portion we're outlining up here where it's got the more golden color. If we go bipolar, it does the whole thing and it is affected by this entire shape, so you can push it up like this and then have it transfer the sound. It just allows for a lot more manipulation and adjustment on what you want from the sound. What might be a good thing to do is if we flick through some presets, we can then see how they adjust and what's going on particularly with it. And we'll just leave everything else off so it's just trash. So you see what this has done here to the shape of the filter, and then it's got stage 1 parts positive, and that's going to give us a ridiculous sound, I'd imagine. Let's turn it on and find out. Yeah, that's horrendous. We can also do how much it drives, the style change, and the pre-input. Same with Saturn, we've got mix knob here and we've got gain. They're just in a slightly different order to how we experience it over here. So on Saturn, mix knob's first thing, gain's right here on the end. Same controls, they're just tucked away here instead. Let's flick through some more of the presets so we can hear some drastic changes just while it's playing. You just saw there I turned off convolve. Convolve is a huge thing that makes a difference to the sound. We're going to have a look at that separately in a second. Pretty crazy. So next one, filter 2. We can apply all kinds of craziness here as well. As you can see, there's a lot going on, and in the way the filter works, it is best way to explain it, it is tied into what's going on down here, and they're not traditional peaks like you'd experience. So there are traditional peaks, but in this case we've got, what was I think, vocal 1. What this is doing is grabbing the frequencies that you would find in a vocal. You see as we scroll through it, manipulates them. So if you were to automate it, that was how you get a talking vocal style effect. Filter 2, great, yeah, another EQ option. We can have a play with that. It's something that doesn't exist in Saturn. It's something that can be done with other plugins, but it's great to have it all built into here. Personally, I'd quite like to see a mix knob on here so you can mix it in and out rather than having to dip it and automate it. But hey, we've got a million things in here already. I'm just being greedy. Now, convolve is a big one. So convolution is something I use a lot in sound design. I will take Space Designer and I will run a sound through it, then run a completely different sound through it that's in a similar key, combining the two to get a completely unique sound. This is effectively what this does, and it gives you options that you can grab and how it convolves with them. I mean, it is convolution reverb. It's the same principle here. You're just running a different sound through it rather than a impulse of a room. If you grab Space Designer, or if you're using some kind of other convolution reverb and drop a drum sample into it, you're going to get some effects similar to what you can find here. What's sort of magic about this is it gives really digital sounds an organic feel. They feel like they are a physical thing, and that's great to have inside this plugin. And when you can then combine that with Trash and Filter 2, gives us all kinds of great sound design opportunities. After which we've then got dynamics. It is standard compressor, I don't feel that I need to go over that. We've also got delay. It has the different options in here of tape tube, analog, lo-fi. Again, don't think I need to go over that. You should all know what a delay is. If not, we can search different types of delay. Failing that, you can drop a comment and I will do you a video on breaking down different types of delay. I've done the D16 delay, which was the combination of Slate Digital one. That's worth having a look at as well. But yeah, that is essentially it. So the key differences being Trash supports up to 4 bands of multiband, Saturn supports up to 6. Trash has these 2 filter options which allow for a lot of extra manipulation options that aren't necessarily available in Saturn. However, Saturn's modulation allows you to freely route all manner of different things to the different parameters, which is going to give you a completely different sound, especially if you abuse that feedback option and you're careful with it and don't blow your ears out. You can get some very unique sounds. Trash then has the convolve option, which Saturn doesn't have the option to do. However, you can achieve the same thing with a convolution reverb such as Space Designer, which is free inside Logic. I mean, those are the primary differences. Izotope have the added benefit, they've put the dynamics and delay and things, so you can do a lot more inside the one plugin. I tend to use Saturn in my chain somewhere to some effect, whereas if I'm going to use Trash, I can pretty much just use Trash if I want. I do tend to then put a limiter at the end of it as well. That's just my personal preference. You can just mask it with the output here, not mask it, dip it with the output here and gain control it that way. I tend to put a limiter on it because if I'm doing this sort of sound design, I tend to crush it. It's going to be loud and in your face. Saturn is great for subtlety, warming up sounds, as well as completely abusing them and turning them into all kinds of crazy things. Trash is, for me, less likely for the subtle warming and adding harmonics thing. Trash you go to when you want to trash a sound, it's in the name. But there you go, guys, that's a fairly quick comparison of the two. I mean, there's no way I can go over all of the different parameters in both of them in a short video, but it's something we can maybe look at in the future if there's enough love for it. Guys, it's been great. Thank you very much. See you next time.